So these numbers are kind of fun to look at. You can see in, if you highlight this guy here, this is 25. You can see that this kind of, we started out lower than what we did for 25, 26, or 24, 25. And now we raised a little bit in third grade, and you can kind of see these trends. I want to point out to this here in our 12th graders. You can see we were dropping. We had a bump in 22, but you can see that we're starting to pick up in our high school a little bit. So those are important numbers to kind of look at. We hope to see that trend continue. Our big portion of our budget is our local taxes, and this is how this is kind of just an explanation of how we get there. And this tells you that it's a base mill levy is required. It's local permissive levy to fund our base budget. So we do get, BPS is a district that qualifies for GTV subsidy, and that's a guaranteed tax base. That's a component that the state government has enacted to make sure that all counties across the district, regardless of their tax base, have an equal and fair school budget. And so there's a subsidy that we would get, and we do qualify for that in Yellowstone County. So these are a little bit of, these are our taxable valuations over the last few years, and you can see this year we had a sharp decline. So what this means is that we will be assessing more mills to get to the dollars that we need. And this is largely due to the new tiered residential tax rate that was just enacted in the last legislative session. You can see it used to be all homes were taxed at a 1.35%. And so that this new tier, it starts from up to $400,000, it will be taxed at a 0.76%, down from the 1.35. Up to 400,000, after 400,000 to 1.5 million, it will be 1.10%, and then over $1 million, it will be 2.2%. There is a rebate for primary residence as well. This, because of our tax base is mainly residential, this really does impact us. So in speaking with the county treasurer, he explained to me that the reason that we saw less taxes collected this year, and that is due to a one-time bill being sent out. They didn't get a reminder. They're going to send out reminders to help mitigate that a little bit. And then also, we have one of our large property, it's Rimrock Mall, that has not paid their taxes. And so we have some taxes that haven't been collected. And so that kind of was a sharp incline this year as well. And so they're working on some of those things as well to get our tax collections back up as well. So,
excuse me just for a moment. Please let the record reflect that Trustee Tarakitis has joined us.
This is a spreadsheet that I use a lot. This gives me 5 years of information. I can see at a glance at 5 years of what our total budgets were, what our reserves are by each fund, and then our other revenues that we would be collecting, and then district property tax over the years, and then the mills as well for our general fund. You can see, because of our taxable valuation, for about the same amount of money that we would be getting, we're going to have, it's going to raise about 10 mills. So you can kind of see that taxable valuation, what that's really causing us to levy in the millage. Going over, and this is for each fund, elementary and high school both. And this goes through, I have 3 pages of this, so it just gives you a good overview. And then at the very end, I have a total of mills per year. And overall, this next year, we'll be raising about, in the elementary, about 20 mills, and about 10 mills more in the high school. And and that's directly reflective of that taxable valuation.
Do we have any questions up to this point? Trustee Larson?
Sure. Laurie, I forgot to, or neglected, I guess, to ask this question in our budget committee meeting when we reviewed this. You've mentioned because of the change in taxable valuation, mills will go up. Will the dollar amount go up as well, or just the mills?
Yes, some of the dollar amounts will go up. And we'll see some significant changes, especially in our tuition fund. You'll see what we're going to be asking of the taxpayers in that fund specifically is going to raise, and that's because of the special ed costs that we have, and as well as the school choice issue where our students can go to any school. Well, we have to pay those schools tuition, and so that's increased significantly as well, and we'll see that in the tuition fund when we're going through that.
Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, it's just a lot, so I don't want to wait till the end for all of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is the report that we have submitted. This is the overview on that spreadsheet before. This is the same information that I've just transposed to that spreadsheet, but this is this year's for high school and elementary. And this talks about our reserves. Reserves are super important to the district. This is our financial health, really. And the board has said that they want to have a reserve limit maintaining a reserve limit at least 5%. We are at that and a little less than what the maximums are, but that's because of the tax collections that we did not get this year as well. We had to use our reserve to meet that. Even though you say you have a budget, if you don't collect the taxes to fulfill that budget obligation, that means we have to get that money from elsewhere. And so that's where we pull those reserves. That's why it's so important to have those reserves there just for tax collections. Or if we weren't to get any money from the state, that's happened in the past as well. So reserves also are just a very healthy, it's an indicator of our health, our financial health over years. If we were to go out for bonds, that's one of the first things that bonding companies look for is what your reserves are. Are you holding those reserves steady? Are you financially and fiscally responsible to hold your reserves? Are you looking towards the future for those things? So reserve limits are super important. And you can see this year in our general fund, we have at elementary, we have a 9.42%, and in that high school, we have a 9.55%. Those are maxed out at 10%. So that's as much as you can hold in reserves. 10% of your budget that you're going to adopt. Okay, we're going to get onto the general fund. Each one of these slides that we go through as we're going through the budgeted funds gives you a little overview of each fund, and then there's some financial information as we go through. I'll kind of go through the general fund first, and then we'll go through the other funds, but I won't go through much of the financial data. It's very self-explanatory unless you have questions. I will point out a couple things as we get going through some of the funds at the end about reappropriations and what those mean. General fund budgets, this tells you what the state is going to contribute to our budgets, and then what is local taxpayers going to contribute to our budgets. And you can see over the year what that's been. It's been pretty flat. We see in the last 2 years that the state's kicked in a little bit more, and this year, because of the STARS Act, this is the state has kicked in quite a bit more, and then our taxpayers are really kind of holding steady. In fact, a little bit less this year than last. And this is the high school as well. You can see that. And this is the data that I was talking about. I'm not going to go through all of these slides. I will explain a little bit here, but what you can look for in some of these slides as we go through. This just kind of gives you of the salaries and benefits And then what this means, how we have kind of split up these budgets throughout. You can see what we had 25 through 25, what we expended, and the actuals at the end. And then we'll end up with a balanced budget for the elementary. And then high school will have a little bit of surplus. And then we're going to go into transportation. Kind of gives you an overview of what we pay for here. There's a little call out up here. It's OD pay. That means out of district payments that we receive in the elementary. Those are from students that have to pay for transportation. And so we have to note that as a collection that we get each year as part of our revenue. It also tells you how each fund is funded. We get a permissive levy, we get a state reimbursement, and a county reimbursement in these funds, in the transportation funds. We do have a 4% rate increase from our transportation contractor this year on these contracts. High school, same thing, but we do not get any student pay revenue from this for the high school fund. Tuition fund, this is the fund that we talked about that you're going to see a significant increase in the levies this year. This is because this is funded, Senate Bill 191 is a mechanism to pay for our high needs students, high needs special ed students. And so we get to gather those costs for those students individually. It's a lot of work, but Kevin Kirkman and his department pull all of this information together. And so we have to have a rationale for this permissive levy. It's very specific, and we get a calculation based on those costs. And so you'll see those costs that we've designated here in the turquoise area. And then we also have another permissive levy for tuition, and these are for the students that are placed in either out-of-state or in-state institutions for their special needs costs, or it is students that go from Billings Public Schools to another school district, and that's the tuition that we pay, and that's for school choice. And that's the elementary cost this year. And then this is the high school cost this year. These are some of the tuition costs that we're going to be paying to other districts and the number of students, elementary and high school. And then the state facilities and what those costs are. Notice that we pay schools throughout the whole state. We have students that go to Helena, Knoxon, Flathead, and these are the students that have come to our district that we will be receiving tuition from. And that includes the students from like Blue Creek, those 7th and 8th graders that start coming to our district. That includes those costs as well. Those are the costs that we normally see, but we did add those this year to this one so that you could see that all captured in one place. Retirement fund. This is the fund that pays for the Social Security, the teacher's retirement, public employees' retirement, and the unemployment insurance for the district employees. You can see these numbers here. Countywide, and this is a permissive levy, is how it's funded. High school is the same. And then our adult ed fund. It's used to pay for adult education. High school diplomas and remedial college prep classes are offered through this program as well. Permissive levies, tuition fees, and non-levy revenue, that's interest, things like that that's earned, that we see here, and that's how this fund gets its revenue. Same with high school. Technology fund. This fund is for all of our technology needs, and that we do have levies that the voters had passed in the previous years, and we'll go through those. And you're going to see in this fund, you'll see this is our cash reappropriation. That means that the cash that's left over from year after year is rolled forward to fund this fund as well. So you're going to see this is a little bit different than some of the other funds you've seen. This is where you'll see cash reappropriation to make that budget, that total budget. So cash reappropriation is money that's just not been spent, but it is earmarked for projects going forward. Those are large dollar ticket items that are coming up that we know are going to happen. And so the technology department's been very frugal, and they try to save that money for those projects coming up. And you can see this cash balance forward. That's what that means. So we've been saving $1,508,764, bringing forward. And then we get a levy. That's the $1.2 million that's been that the voters passed in 2013. We get about $64,000, $65,000 from the state for technology needs for a district our size for our elementary. Same with high school. Flexibility fund. This was a special fund that was used years ago to, we could, if we were fiscally responsible and we tried to save money in any way we could, and we could put this money in a flex fund, and I call this the old money. That's money that could have been used then. We knew we were going to have something coming up. Maybe we didn't have enough money in technology, and we wanted to implement some classrooms, some computer classrooms or something like that, or we had some big expenses coming up. We could put money aside in the flexibility fund. Well, and it used to be funded a little bit from the state to help with that. That's no longer the case. So any money that we were able to put in the flex fund, it's dwindling. And so, and then the state said, well, we're going to give you some money for advanced opportunities and for transformational learning for CTE, but we're going to put it in your flex fund. So that's where those monies are housed. And so it's kind of morphed a little bit. So you'll see about 3 different pots of money in the flex fund. The old money, the money that the district saved and it can use for any means that it needs, that you deem is necessary, and then the CTE monies or the transformational learning monies. And that's a cash balance forward. Those are some of the old monies that we had, and some of the transformational learning monies that were left over from as the years go, and then some of the interest earned as well. I did have to mark this up here. We have a little prepaid. We paid for some technology, and we called it a prepaid, and so we have to mark that in there as that's a revenue that we have for this year.
Lori, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So on that flex fund, we are not able to utilize it the way that we have before, or they've just added some additional parameters?
They've added some additional components to that, but the old money that we were able to use for flexibility, you really don't have the flexibility that you did before. Okay. They really kind of tightened that down. It's really hard for us And with budgets being tight, it's hard for us to save money and move it into the flex fund. So one of the places that you could take money from was transportation, as long as it's non-levy revenue. That means if it was not collected on taxes, you could move it. If it's collected for that purpose, for transportation, let's say, that's only those tax dollars you could only use for transportation. But non-levy revenue would be interest, some of the county money that you got, or the state reimbursement money. You could move, if you had money extra, you could put that into the flex fund to use it flexible for other needs that you might have throughout the district. But we're just not seeing money available to do that or move to the flex fund like we used to. So kind of keeping budgets tight. So does that answer your question? Okay. High school, same thing. We had a cash balance forward. Most of that is advanced opportunities. Debt service. This is paying for the bonds that we have that the voters approved. And you can see these, we just pay these. We have some sinking funds. We're going to be paying off a couple bonds next year in the elementary. A couple of those fall off in 2027. And so we'll be seeing this kind of reduced a little bit, although there's some refunding. One bond's going to be refunded next year, or was refunded this year, so it kind of rolls into another fund. So we got better interest rates by doing that. So you'll see some of these. These won't change much, but next year you'll see a little bit of difference when these bonds fall off, 2 of them. High school, the same. These are pretty small bonds that we have left here. So building reserve. This fund has some money in it that we've been building up as well. These are for bigger projects that are earmarked, and so the money that you see as the cash balance forward or cash balance reappropriated also has been earmarked for larger projects as we go forward. We do get some money from the state in this fund, and this is as for every dollar that we spend at the district, we levy in a permissive levy. The state will kick in this year, I think it's about $3 for every dollar that we levy our taxpayers. So it's a pretty good deal this year. Legislative session enacted a little bump in this to help schools with some of their deferred maintenance needs and safety needs. So you can see that here, interest earned. This is cash reappropriated as well. And then this school major maintenance permissive levy with a state match. So the state of Montana is going to kick in $927,000, while we're going to ask for $427,000 from our taxpayers. And that's in the elementary, and then the same, a little bit more cash balance there, and then this for our high school. And this is informational data going forward here. This is kind of gives you budget breakdowns and some more information. So, this is the multi-district fund. This is the multi-district fund. The district, I can't say enough about the financial wizardry that went on with this. This was you all taking really good care of those COVID monies and using those to the best advantage that you could. So you have a hefty balance in here. This allows you to do the Dayless Stadium to kick into that. So you guys have done a very, very good job with these dollars. You don't see this very often at all, maximizing your use of COVID funds like you did. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. And so good job. You can see that these dollars have been, this was option 2 that the board chose with the multi-district. Or option B, I guess. This was fun. This is something I just wanted to put in here. Craig and I were messing around with some of these enrollment figures, and we started in 2016. And so you can see this class, when they were kindergartners, they will graduate in year 28. And so you can kind of see their enrollment as you go through. And then this is the class of 27. And they were first graders in 16. And then this will be our graduating class this year. And you can kind of see they kind of stayed a little bit steady. And this was our class last year that graduated. And they were third graders in 16. And you can kind of go through. This was just kind of fun. I thought it was a really good kind of picture to see where our kids go through cohorts. This was a big class of 22. Same with 21. And then COVID hit. So it kind of goes through that for you. Going forward, we're going to be looking at department budgets, and these are expense keys. We use little keys that kind of designate, and it aligns with what OPI standards are as well. And so we break down budgets by these keys. One's our salaries, two's benefits, three's professional and tech services, property services, so on and so forth, as you can see through here. This is facilities management. This is Director Scott Ryder. This is the budget that he's provided and looked through. So you can see he has different pots of money that he gets to use for his budgets. He's over a lot of all of our schools and does a fabulous job. He has general fund monies. He also has building reserve monies, and there's a bit of, not in this budget, but you also saw in the multi-district, he also has some money in there to use for projects that are coming up that were much needed. And this is Dr. Garcia's department, elementary and high school. Business services. Craig and I, we oversee this. Adult education. Andy Russell oversees this department. School, elementary and high school leadership, this is Kyra and Gordon. Special education, you can see he has the two buckets of money, general fund, and then elementary tuition and high school tuition as well. And did you just add, this is Callie's department. You can see the buckets of money that she has and how they're going to be spent. Again, if you look at the key, this will explain to you more what those buckets are on the individual. Technology, Jason Platt and his fantastic team. And this is career outreach. This is the advanced opportunities money that we're seeing. We had a carryover. You can see those dollar figures in there, and that we'll be getting the allocations we'll be getting for fiscal year 26. And that was housed in the Flex Fund, if you remember from that slide. Elementary and high school curriculum. This is Kim Anthony and Dr. O. Student transportation, Lindsay Grand, she's over all of this. Does a fantastic job as well. And then our athletics and activities, Mark Salser is over this. And then I have to give out a shout out to the fantastic business services team that they work so hard to make sure that we can pull all of this together, because you don't get your budget until you report to the state of all your expenditures for the year. And I can't tell you how much work that is. These ladies, our accounting team has worked weekends to get this done, especially with the new software implementation that we've done. So we've had a lot of special help. And then our payroll team, they work hard all year. It all is hand in hand. And then our accounts payable team as well. So it's all of these people working together to make sure that we use our finances the way we're supposed to. They are watchdogs. They make sure that every dollar that is spent in this district is careful, purposeful, and it's intended to be spent. So we have a lot of good people working in these departments.
Questions? Trustee Wagner?
Forgive me if you mentioned this, but how does our per pupil funding compare to state averages?
Our per pupil to state averages. Maybe you could explain that a little.
Sure. I think you may be referring to the decrement. I mean, that's what we typically point to as a larger school district and the impact of the decrement on a larger school district versus smaller. So just as an example, a rural school, they would be funded at a certain dollar figure for that very first student, and then that funding is reduced per student, say down to student number 30. So that average for those 30 students is somewhere between, the starting point and after it's been decremented down to that 30th student. Now with a large district like Billings, what you see is that decrement continues down to a threshold, it depends on the elementary or high school, of either 1,000 student or the 800th student, and then from that point on, the remainder of those students are funded at that the lowest rate that you have met. So our average funding per student in aggregate is a lot lower than, say, smaller schools across the state.
Okay, that helps a lot. Thank you. Oh, and sorry, I had one more question. Just because the calendar committee worked so hard this year to get that school year, have we seen or do we know an impact beyond transportation? Hopefully it's a positive impact, the calendar that was created. Will that have a positive impact on the budget in years to come if we continue with that style of calendar? And I don't know if we can answer that right now, but it was just something I was wondering.
I mean, just one thought that immediately came to mind was utilities. As the buildings aren't active and running a few additional days throughout the year, you'll see the savings of not having those buildings fully powered or cooled, etc. For the most part on the compensation side, what we've tried to do is make sure that any employee wasn't really seeing a reduction in pay. We're not seeing an increase in pay. Really the only impact is you reduce the total number of working days. It increases an employee's daily rate, but that really only comes into effect once they retire and they're owed severance pay. So there could be some lingering implications of that down the road, but not immediate.
Any other? Oh, Trustee Larson.
Yeah, Laurie, I see $88,893 surplus in the high school general fund. Is there a plan for that at all, or what is the thought behind that?
For the high school, there $88,000 is in that big of a budget is really minimal, and so if other costs don't eat that up, or if we have a position that we need to add, that's less than probably one teacher. So if that cost could be eaten up very easily, we would maximize those dollars if there were a need that we needed, or again, that could be transferred to the multi-district at the end of the year if there's that money left. But $88,000 is pretty down to the gnat's brow with that big of a budget. So,
Thanks.
Any other questions? If not, I would take a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the 2025-26 elementary budget Did I say that correctly?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? This is for the elementary district budgeted funds. Seeing no discussion, please call for the vote.
Trustee Larson.
Aye.
Trustee Ludwig.
Aye.
Trustee Nemitz.
Yes.
Trustee Hafer.
Aye.
Trustee Judici.
Aye.
Trustee Ashmore.
Aye.
And Trustee Tarakitis.
Aye.
7 yeses.
The motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion for the high school district?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Wagner? Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Trustee Ludwig, is there any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, please call for the vote.
Trustee Larson.
Aye.
Trustee Ludwig.
Aye.
Trustee Nemitz.
Yes.
Trustee Hafer. Trustee Hoffman.
Aye.
Trustee Judici.
Aye.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Ashmore.
Aye.
And Trustee Tarakitis.
Aye.
And the vote passes unanimously. I would just like to say that I appreciate the presentation and the user-friendliness of it for those of us that don't have a money-minded brain. I really appreciate it, so thank you for that. All right, moving on to planning and development and the Bannock Group presentation. Trustee Hafer.
Thank you. We have Chase Rose here with us today from Bannock Group, and he is going to give us sort of an overview of how the fundraising is going.
Certainly. Trustees, good afternoon. Thank you for the time. I appreciate being with you. As you know, I'm Chase Rose with the Bannock Group, one of the principals, and we have the honor of serving as your campaign counsel and managers for the Davis Stadium project. I first just want to say thank you for having us. This is not only an incredible project for this community, it's needed, but it's been frankly a pleasure to work on, so we appreciate the partnership. Today I want to give you an overview of where we are, but perhaps as importantly where we're headed, and our opinion of the likely potential for additional fundraising as you consider the budget realities surrounding this project. So folks, we started in March of this year following the feasibility study. That's when we leaned into the actual fundraising itself. In the month of March, put together a pitch deck, recruited some of our campaign committee members, defined our naming opportunities as well as the naming policy that I know the board has had eyes on. Fundraising asks, direct solicitations, then took place from April until now, so that's a total of 5 months. And in that time frame, I'm excited to report today that there's been $4,386,000 worth of philanthropic gifts and or sponsorships committed to the project. That represents 70% of the $6.25 million budget that is our initial target for the Davis project. Knowing the philanthropic landscape across Montana, having worked in this space for 12 plus years, I believe that that's extraordinary progress that frankly really deserves credit to our donor partners for lining up behind this project and for saying, you know what, our student athletes, our communities, our visitors, frankly, all deserve a better experience than what Davis is currently offering. Everything has a lifespan, and Davis has simply outlived its lifespan and needs this renovation. So we're thrilled by the initial progress, representing virtually just over $877,000 per month that's been secured. I do want to note that of the $4.386 million I just quoted, there is one verbal intention at $1 million. There is a slight possibility that that gift comes in at $500,000. So I would say the lowest number is $3.9 million if that occurs, but I do believe the most accurate number we have to date is $4.386 million. That represents outreach of 50 plus meetings or calls that have been held with donors, and we retain 182 major prospects on the list that we are working through within the campaign, both Bannock and our campaign committee volunteers. Of the 12 naming opportunities that we put forward for the project, there have been 7 in which donors have stepped forward being willing to provide that pledge commitment at the equivalent amount required. And so we do still have some naming opportunities remaining. That total is 1.25 million of, again, naming opportunities that remain for us to inspire generosity from other partners. It includes the Skyview locker room, senior locker room, visitor locker room, the lighting, as well as the East Plaza entrance. And so we're actively pursuing donor partners for all of those particular elements. I also am excited to share, and we hope to have announcements as early as this week. We are planning a large-scale public fundraising event on October the 2nd. And again, details both surrounding a guest speaker that we're quite excited about. We have a verbal confirmation from that speaker, as well as a venue can be announced as early as this week. But we do believe that in light of good success with naming opportunities and the energy around the football season itself, we're hopeful that that's a very successful, well-attended public event here on October the 2nd. Trustees, in summary, we feel that the campaign for Dallas is progressing very, very nicely in a short amount of time. And I wanted to just offer our professional opinion that we have increasing confidence of our ability to get to the $6.25 million goal. Obviously, we can't make that a promise, but I do want to give you and project our confidence that we believe that is a very viable number for us to hit. Candidly, above that number, the $6.25 million would be unknown at this point. But please know that you have our absolute commitment, and I know our committee's commitment, that if the board, in your conversation you're about to have, feels that we're going to need to try to inspire additional fundraising success to meet our goals, we will stop at nothing to make that happen. But it will be some level of unknown beyond the $6.25 million fundraising goal. I also want to note that it is very common in fundraising campaigns that you have significant success out of the gate with large-scale, large naming opportunities, and then there does tend to be a bit of a plateau as you're getting to smaller, more annual-level gifts that are still critical, but the numbers will increase at less of a clip that we've seen in the first 5 months. Finally, I wanted to note, as it relates to the financing of pledges, which is, of course, part of the financing capital stack within this project that I know Dr. Garcia, Lori, and others will be discussing, and the board has already discussed. We do believe strongly that giving donors a 3 to 5 year pledge to really make stretch commitments and maximize their impact is critical in large-scale campaigns. And we also believe that any interest assessed on a short-term bridge note that is roughly going to be, in my opinion, about 4 years based on this project, a max of 4 years with one pledge exception in your stadium naming partner, we do believe that that is likely to be a worthy expenditure because we have more opportunity to inspire donors if they have that longer term to pay. In short, it nets out to your benefit. Also, we've used this structure on other Bannock projects just to give you all some comfort that it's certainly not the first time that an entity is looking at this. For example, MSU Northern on their stadium project that we led used bridge financing of pledges. Montana Western down in Dillon, we also led that campaign for the new stadium. And the Four Ranges Wellness Center, $23.5 million facility, is also using some level of bridge financing as it relates to the capital stack. So I do believe that this is a worthy topic for the board to consider. Obviously, it's entirely your prerogative how we put together the financing package. Finally, I would note that we did also provide Lori budget clarity on the projected income from pledges, and so she has that information. But just as a couple examples, in 2025, we're anticipating $1,378,000, 26, $659,000, 27, $659,000, 28, $554,000, so on and so forth. I raise that to simply note that because many of these pledges are front-loaded, I actually believe that the interest impact will be even lower because many of them are paid in the first few years versus the back half of the campaign pledge period. Folks, with that, happy to take any questions as it relates to the campaign. But again, thank you very much for the partnership. We're excited about the progress and thankful to our donor partners for stepping up in the midst of significant philanthropic competition in this community to get behind the Dayless campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Chase. Are there any comments or questions for Chase? Thank you very much for coming
you all.
and giving us the lowdown.
Thank you.
We do have one public comment. Michael Herringer.
Good afternoon. My name's Mike Herringer. I'm a lawyer here in Billings. I work at the Brown Law Firm. I've been there for 40 years. I'm the father of 5 grown children. I have 2 grandchildren and many nieces and nephews in the Billings Public Schools. I'm a member of the Capital Campaign. I've called on people asking them for money for the Dayless Stadium campaign. I'm here to request that you move forward with this campaign. We want to continue our fundraising efforts. Like many Billings residents, I've been watching this issue with much interest regarding the plans to renovate Dayless Stadium over the last few years. Dayless Stadium means a lot to me personally. I played there. My brother set rushing records there. My brother-in-law is Ron Lepsock. I watched him and many other win state titles there. There's no better venue for high school sports than Dayless Stadium in the state of Montana. It was sad for me to see it deteriorate over the years. That's the reason I became so excited that a viable and affordable plan was developed to renovate Dayless with public and private money. After seeing the campaign plans, I volunteered to help raise the funds from individuals and businesses to get this project completed. One of the reasons I wanted to become involved is I have experience in fundraising. I've worked on 2 significant capital campaigns. Most recently, I was the vice chair of the $18 million campaign to build St. Francis K-8 elementary school for the Billings Catholic Schools. Dayless Stadium is important to our community. This project will benefit everyone. From a fundraising standpoint, this campaign has seen much success in a short time. For this, we must thank our donors. In March, we started with Greg and Eileen McDonald, who issued a $500,000 challenge. They said, we'll match up to $500,000 and you got a month to raise it. We met that goal, and it was a great start. Many other significant gifts have been given by other generous donors. It is very humbling for me and overwhelming to witness each gift that is given, large or small. I made my pledge and made my first payment to the campaign to the Billings Public School Foundation, as I believe it's important for me to show that I have some skin in the game before I go out and ask potential donors for some money. The campaign is moving forward at a rapid pace, as Chase just told you. In just a few months, we are well on our way to reach our goal, but there is much work to be completed. Keep in mind that most capital campaigns take many years to complete. Like you, I was surprised about the news regarding the increased cost of fixing the slope of the field. Of course, nobody likes surprises, but they happen, particularly where you are renovating an older facility, so they must be dealt with. Those of us working on the campaign want to continue to try to raise the money to cover these unexpected costs. This project needs to be completed. You have a good plan. It's a project that we can be proud of for the next 25 years. Therefore, I request that this school board allow us to continue the campaign, to move forward, allow us to continue our efforts to fundraise, to try to get the funds necessary to complete the Dayless Stadium renovation. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Michael, very much for coming. Okay, unless there are any questions about the Bannock presentation, we'll move on to the next item, which is the A&E design presentation. That was presented a week ago. They are not here to go over it, but I think everybody got introduced to where they've come. They've came in at 12.5 for what they were asked to do. Are there any questions on that? Okay, then we'll move to the next item. Shane Swandall is here with Hulting just to go over that there was the field issue, and so would you sort of tell us where we are on that issue right now?
Sure.
Shane.
Good evening, Board Chair, trustees. I think if you remember from the last presentation, with the field being out of balance, you know, as we were working through all those numbers, we priced that out to be able to level the field out, actually get it to Montana High School Athletic Association standards, which obviously put us over the 12.5. So we're requesting, our budget landed at $14,892,000, which is obviously an increase, which needs approval from you guys to maintain that budget and finalize the designs to get that done. I'd be happy to answer any questions that I wasn't able to answer to the other night, but so I just go ahead.
I don't remember which attachment I saw this in, but it looked like in your projected budget for the project, there was a contingency set aside over $1 million.
$1.3 million in contingency. Actually, $1,353,899.
Thank you. Can you explain the purpose of that?
Yeah, so when you're at this stage of the project, since we don't have all of the finalized documents, there has to be a contingency that we're carrying on the owner's behalf for things that could come up. So a good example of that is we just got back our geotechnical reports from all of our borings. We are going to have to do deep foundations. So I already know that we're going to have costs associated with that. That is why there's a built-in contingency to be able to pick those things up as we're moving forward with the design. But if you don't broaden the scope, we know that we can't get the field for the 12.5. We've looked at that every way possible, and there's no way to shrink it down without affecting what the building committee has come up with for the proper functioning in that facility. This is the type of things that we have to have in there for picking those up as we go down the road, right? But we still have to be designing, and they have to have a metric to hit on that design, which is what the building committee came up with. This is the project, or you keep the budget down and I have to start making cuts, right? I mean, that's the only way to go to hit the numbers, or increase the budget and allow them to continue to design the project out as it was developed by the building committee. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's perfect. You did mention already there's going to be a little bit more cost than expected with the foundations.
Well,
do you know approximately how much?
No, not until we get the final design, right?
Perfect, yeah.
Then we'll know exactly where, because what's going to end up happening is they've recommended rammed aggregate piers underneath of all of our structural supports, which we deal with that all the time. In fact, all the middle schools had to be put on foundations. I anticipated that we were going to have that. That's why I kept a relatively healthy contingency in there, but you can't call that out until you actually get the metrics from the geotech, right? So that's why I built the budget the way I did. But also keep in mind, there's nothing here. I mean, this is your guys' money, so it's not like that money disappears. You're going to see all of the bids. That all goes out for bid. And there will be a GMP from the GCCM that when you approve, there's a final contract value after all 30 divisions are bid publicly. That number comes back, and then we have all the soft costs, obviously, which is the design fees. You have permitting from the city. You have system development fees. You have the asbestos abatement. You have all these things that we're holding values for, because we've seen this. You know, we have that history. We understand what's probably going to end up happening with the size and the scale of that. But there's going to be a hard number at some point to all those. That doesn't happen until we get to bid. But this allows the project to move forward on design, to finalize the design. So you have to pick pick a number so they can finalize the design. We take it out to bid. I'm confident in our numbers that it's in this range, right? Until you actually have it fully out to bid, you're not going to have the exact numbers. But they have to know how long to make that piece of rope.
Thanks.
Yes, Zach.
So Shane, last week, the conversation was if we don't make this adjustment, it's going to disrupt the timeline of
Absolutely.
the project. So I guess my question is if we choose to stay at this limit that we have available, have the cuts been made so that we understand that if we can't, because obviously you build a stadium around a football field and a track, we don't need stands and toilets if we don't have facilities to do the athletic activity. So those should be priority tier number one. Then you have the priority tier items that you can't do away with because of code. So again, I think the frustration I had last week was, do we have an option? Or is it, if we don't decide today to go up, then we have to go back to the design table and start over, because with this new information, the design shift would be football field, track first, then everything else.
Yes.
Because otherwise, what's the point
It'd be redesigning, absolutely. We'd have to go back. And I guess from that standpoint, that's kind of like a guess because that is not what the committee had developed, right? What the committee had developed is what was presented. My job is to ensure, okay, you guys had a budget. I know currently what this is. That does not meet it. Of the 12.5, that's why the request is for, this is where it's at. If you want to meet these standards, that's the number. If you go back down, there is changes, and it will not function as a facility that the committee developed, right? We're going to be taking program away from the facilities. You're going to have to go to your locker rooms. We're going to have to cut a significant amount of that and a significant amount of the seating to still maintain the track and all of the events at state standards. So.
Okay.
Trustee Nemitz.
Is Wendy's at all involved in the funding of the field anymore, or is this any portion of that?
I'm sorry, I have no idea.
Okay.
We can have Mark Sulzer answer that question.
Good afternoon. That's a great
and also,
question.
how old is the turf? Is it 5 years?
10.
It's 10?
So we're getting close.
How old is the turf right now?
10.
It's 10 years old?
Yeah. And it's 12 to 15, but you talk to the guys that recondition it, it's 10 to 12. So we're right there. That's a great question. I've been kind of chomping at the bit waiting to answer that. So part of the, let's say, additional 2.3 for the track and the turf, part of that will be offset by the naming rights for that field. Whether they take on the full expense for the replacement of the turf or a big portion of it is in play, and that's one of the things to consider. One other thing is when you talk about locker rooms and all the naming rights, locker rooms, bathrooms, concessions, people have committed to those areas, so it's not necessarily feasible to start chopping those out because that takes away from our number that we fundraise for. So those are the 2 points that I wanted to make from a fundraising standpoint, and I'm glad you asked about the turf.
Go. Brooke.
So with the Bannock group saying that was it 60%? We're at 60%? 70% of our goal.
Initial budget.
Initial budget. Okay. So are we in a position where, and I know we can't look into the future, but I mean, I guess the question is, do we all feel relatively confident that we can look at this additional $2.5 million to fix the track and feel confident that we can fundraise that, offset that, absorb that, versus going back and having to, I didn't even think about that, Mark, with having to go back to the donors and saying, okay, this locker room that you committed to is now half the size that we showed you. So I guess that's kind of the question that I'm thinking in my mind.
I don't have the financing side or the fundraising side. Mine's more the details on the construction and the costs that go into that.
So, if I may, so we're taking risk, and everybody's taking risks today. Okay, I think the people that are taking significant risks, not only because of their opinions on the matter, because you're here to make an opinion as an elected official and make your voice count, is the people that have opinions but also have millions of dollars ready to invest here. So they're also taking some risk. And when we think about the project that was presented to those donors, was a $12.5 million project that included fence, concession stands, locker rooms. And so if let's say we say, no, we have to abide by the 12.5, and which the board can make that decision. I say, we're not going to move out of the 12.5. Then that means that we're going to have to go to the drawing board. And then we're going to have to really start taking pieces away out of that stadium. My concern with that action is that then the donors that have promised to give to a project, that project doesn't exist anymore. That project has been changed, altered. So we might have cases where people will say, well, I gave for this project, now you're changing, you're not going to have a fence for that project, or you're not going to have a locker room for Skyview or for West or Senior. Therefore, I'm not going to give, I don't feel comfortable giving to this project, and that's their prerogative. So just the risk is imminent, is real. But you also have to think about where we were. Just having the stadium open the way it was, which I closed the stadium. Actually, that was my decision. The risk is there. Is grandma coming down those stairs and tripping on one of those pieces of concrete and having grandma fall? So risk is here. It's not backtracking that is going to solve the risk that we have. The risk is imminent, is for you really assessing the risk. We had the risk of supporting this project with no money fundraised. Actually, when we came, we presented a $5 million multi-district proposal, and the board said, no, we're going to give it 6.2. That means the board believed that they were taking the risk, even though we had no money fundraised. Here we are in pledges, $4.3 million with potential of about 6.5. And now we're at 80%. I mean, if we continue the fundraising campaign, you heard the expert that we might be closer to 6.5. Actually, reasonably, we should be there. That put this project at about 80%. So now your risk is 20%. Actually, less than that. I ran the numbers, it's 83%. So the 6.2 plus 6.2, 6.5, puts us at about 80% plus of funding secured for the project. Now the risk is 20%. We're starting with 100% risk as a liability. Now we have 80%, 20% of risk, with 80% already covered with some variables, yes. But I think the risk that you're taking is reasonable. It's not unreasonable to say. You heard you saw the numbers there. You saw our budget. We're meeting the 5% expectation of reserves funds for our main general funds, and we're almost at 10% instead of 5. We're at 10. You saw some of the other funds in transportation. You saw we're balanced budget. We have a balanced budget. We have a multi-district that has $4.3 million. So yes, you're taking risk. But what we would like to do as part of the next item on the agenda really is we would like to continue fundraising. Let's keep the momentum. Are we going to guarantee, Trustee Wagner, that we're going to fundraise all of the amount? No, I don't know we can get to that point. But that's why bridge financing could be an opportunity. And what we presented last time using CDs to offset some of that cost so the taxpayer doesn't have to come up with some sort of bond or levy to finish the program, the program. Of course, any money generated is taxpayers' money, of course. If you have a CD, that's taxpayer money. You're generating revenue, that's taxpayers' money because it's money from the taxpayers that is now generating revenue. It's not for anybody else to take. But I think that approach is a better approach, generating money, than asking or going back to the taxpayers to complete the project. So remember, the gap with the fundraising estimate is a 20% gap, so your risk is 20%. But is there risk? Oh, absolutely. But I think this is pretty objective and measure and risk that is not. You had more risk when we started this project, I can tell you that. Way more risk. But look at where we are. So that's why we recommend us continue moving forward.
Any more questions for Shane? Thank you, Shane.
You bet.
Okay, so the next item is the financing. And I know Dr. Garcia and the finance team have been working on, not all the money is coming in on day one. So are we, like Dr. Garcia said, are we taking a risk that we can meet this obligation? I think my opinion is that if we do not move forward, we are throwing a lot away. We need to look at an RFP for financing. And so, Dr. Garcia, did you want to?
Lori and Craig, would you like to update us on what we have discussed with the banks?
Could you just clarify, there's a lot of these items right now on the agenda that are blending together. Can you tell me specifically what item we are discussing right now?
For the
RFP for financing and investment.
So D.
D.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Sure. So since last week's meeting, we've been putting together a request for quotes to send out to banking and financial institutions. What we're trying to put within that request for quotes is as much information as we have at our disposal at this point to help those institutions come back with the best deal possible for the school district. So what we're looking at is a line of credit secured by a certificate of deposit. That's really the term that we would be using here, specific to the CDs and a line of credit idea. Within that request for quotes, we'll be asking them to provide rates on a line of credit as well as potential rates on certificates of deposit as we put district money into there to earn interest. We're also going to be providing them with the project deliverable schedule that we have right now from Holting to give them an idea of what the cash outflow towards the project is going to look like over the next couple of years. We are also going to take some of the information Chase mentioned earlier regarding the timing of the pledges to help layer that in so that they can help us put together their best proposal, but also assist us with their expertise on here would be the best way for the district to approach this. Outside of the line of credit secured by certificate of deposit option, we've been in discussions with D.A. Davidson looking at the concept of wrapped bonds. And as we mentioned earlier, there's some bonds falling off the schedule in the next couple of years. And there are ideas that we've heard from D.A. Davidson regarding these wrapped bonds that could potentially give us some additional bond debt that wouldn't necessarily increase any impact on the taxpayers. Just another concept we're looking at. And we're also looking at is there an approach we could use both of these ideas just to make this whole thing work when it's all said and done. So the request for quotes, we passed it over to the legal counsel to take a look at it. They sent back some comments this morning, but it's in relative good shape, ready to go. We just need to put some final touches on there, and we're ready to release that.
Okay, questions? Okay.
And we will bring that to the next board meeting for the board to approve. So once we do similar to an RFP process, we take the banks, line it up. We have a scoring team, community member. We're hoping to have one of the trustees involved in that, and our administrative team to evaluate those proposals, select the best proposal, bring it to the board so the board can vote on it for the next board meeting, if that's the route. And the board will have a decision to make once those numbers are actually publicized, and that we can make them public, because that's the other challenge. In the past, we have been restricted on the information we can actually present in public. But we want to make sure that that's public, And also we'll have the numbers from DA Davison to see if that's maybe the appetite for the board to go in that Rose wrap bonds is the best option. So we'll bring that to the September board meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so, oh, yes.
I would like to make a motion developing an RFP process for the financing and the potential investments to support the completion of the Dallas Stadium project.
Okay. We haven't decided on which dollar amount.
Can I make a suggestion? In reality, and correct me if I'm wrong, finance team, my understanding is that that's not required at this time, that we can do that. We can make that request. The September board meeting will be when once we present the finalists or the best options, that you will vote then to support that. That we can conduct this process without board action.
Then why does the agenda item ask for approval?
As appropriate. Yeah, that's if you decide to go in that direction. We're
So
fine
I'd
with
like
that.
to make a motion
Oh, sure.
to move forward and have the RFP process start for the completion of Dallas Stadium. And if I need to attach a dollar amount, I'm happy to do that.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to allow the superintendent and the finance team to develop an RFP process for the financing and potential investments to support the completion of the Dallas Stadium project. Do we have any questions or comments? Yes?
I think they requested a board member to sit in with the RFP process. I would be more than happy if you're looking for one.
Okay, thank you.
Noted.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, then I don't think we have a dollar amount associated with this at this time, so we can just do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Then I am going to go back to the A&E design presentation was at 12.5, and then Shane presented the 2.3 addition. So we need to make a decision on moving forward with either the 12.5 or the 14.3.
I'd like to make a motion approving the package for the 14.3, whatever it was.
It's 14,892.
14,892, yes.
Thank you. I'm at the wrong item.
Yes.
14,892,896 and 13 cents.
Yeah, got it. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the 14,892 million for the project. Questions and comments?
I'd like to just make a comment.
Yes.
I realize that we don't want to make a change and add the additional amount, but if we don't make the change and add the additional amount and fix the slope of the field, my opinion is we might as well not be doing anything. We might as well just be leaving it closed the way it is, because if we don't have a field that can be utilized properly, there's no sense on adding anything. We might as well just put up some empty or some temporarily permanent bleachers and let it be, because there's no point in looking at something and changing things if we can't use the field the way that it's going to be intended to use. So I would like to see the project move forward and have the work done that it needs to be done in order to make it 100% usable.
Thank you. Zach?
Okay, couple clarifications. So, Dr. Garcia, on the Dallas Stadium budget amendment for the FIT, I think we discussed this at the last meeting, is the $2.3 million additional. It says here it's coming out of the multi-district fund. Is that accurate or not accurate?
No, that's not accurate. Yeah, our goal is to fundraise the $2.3 million.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, I really want to address the regressive tone of how this is being phrased, okay? In October, we were presented with two options: $10.5 million facility and a $20+ million facility. which we took as a budget committee, figured out we'll fund a third for the 10.5 and half for the 20 plus, putting the pressure on whichever candidate at the time we approved to raise that money. Okay, forward progress. Come around to the spring and find out that that 10.5 number was an old number that we used in a much prior meeting that wasn't an accurate number. The 12.5 was nothing more than an upgrade of the fact that that number had been used for such a long time, and we made a commitment to increase our commitment to half of 12.5, a significant jump over the third for 10.5. It's frustrating and hard for me, knowing that I'm the ones questioning a lot of the progress that we're making here. There's been no regressive approach to this football stadium until we just were approached with another increase in cost. At no point has this been held back. If anything, we've made a larger commitment. The challenge with this increase, and I don't know how we reconcile the past approval, because the $12.5 million was approved as a top cap with a 6.25 maximum commitment of school district funds. So I don't know how this, are you asking to increase the 14.8, and what is the school district's commitment in that 14.8? Because I made the motion, and the motion was is that I wanted a top cap. Because if not, we had no idea what the end was for this project. It could just keep going up and keep going up. And were we going with the 50%, or were we going for the 6.25? Without a top, if we say 50%, we're now paying 7.5 million, not 6.2. So I think the motion to increase this amount has to capture what our commitment of the taxpayer money is versus what's being fundraised. Because on Monday, what was asked, we want the authority to move on with the fundraising. So I think that I'm asking, are you 14.8 plus we're moving our commitment up to 50%, so now we're on the hook in a multi-district for 7.5? Because if that's the case, I think we have to go back and redo the multi-district account to get approved, because that amount's not approved in there based on, and so the regression is over the next 2 years, you have to pull money out of the projects that were proposed in the multi-district, because that money doesn't remain the same, and we haven't seen that. So I don't know how we can make the motion to increase that without seeing the effects of that increased amount. So are we staying at 6.25, period?
So
or
I
the
will
increase?
happily amend my motion, and I will have my motion say that I would like to increase the budget authority to 14.892, 896, and 13, with the 2.3 being raised by fundraising, with the district staying at 6.25. So I would like to see the continuation of the fundraising until that money is met.
Okay, that's it. Is that a clarification rather than an amendment, or is it an amendment?
Trustee Hafer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Trustee Wagner. I'm sorry, Trustee Hoffman.
Just go run through the whole line.
So, you heard Mr. Chase talk about the fundraising campaign, and that comfortably we could get to the 6.2, about $6.2 million, but the warranty of us being able to raise the gap from where we are to the 14.8, that gap that is being created, that cannot be warranty. That cannot be.
I understand.
Yeah.
I think that with the, would you mind coming to the podium, please? I think with the campaign going public, in your experience, do you think raising an additional $2.3 million with 5 large donors and then opening it to the public, is that something that is, I mean, I know you're not going to say it's 100%, I guarantee it, but it's very feasible to have it done.
It is feasible. What I will say is, with the current naming opportunities that we have, the 1.5 million, a couple at 500,000, and then $250,000, You are going to run out of runway with the naming opportunities. Again, there's 1.25 million remaining.
Sure.
And I do believe that with your corporate sponsors, it will be highly unlikely that if they're not receiving the same recognition as some of those at higher levels, it will be unlikely that they choose to commit it. This is just corporate partners, right? They will probably fall 100,000, 50,000, et cetera. Individuals, however, are quite different. We could secure, in my judgment, multiple six-figure commitments from philanthropic-minded individuals that are not as concerned with naming or marketing potential. It is possible in Billings, Montana, for an inspired project to raise the roughly $8 million that would be required. That is possible. It is just less certain in terms of pipeline and where we are now than the 6.25, which I do believe is very viable based on what we see in the pipeline. But yes, it's feasible.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So I would like to, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Great.
Thank you. I think if the trustees would I feel more comfortable with the dollar amounts in my motion, I'm happy to have the dollar amounts in the motion.
Well, I think we have the dollar amounts or the percentage approved.
I feel like we're too early for that. We've heard that we're talking with banks. They're going to give us estimations, trying to figure out our numbers. We don't know exactly what the bid is. I think limiting our ability to make those decisions is not, today's not the time to do that. There will be a day when we will do that. I think approving the budget authority is where we're at right now, so we can get further information to continue to make decisions. Today's not the, if we say yes or no, it's done. That's not today.
Basically, we need to decide, are we going to stick with the 12.5 design, or are we going to go with the expanded design that would level the field, level the site, so that they can have a level playing field, new turf, and the track that would meet the standards of the state.
And with my motion that has been made and seconded, it's up to, whatever the majority of the vote is.
So that's not touching the financing or anything. It's just, are we looking to do the 12.5, or are we looking to do the expanded? That's the motion.
And I guess, sorry, Jenna,
Yeah,
to
go ahead.
Zach's point, I'm okay with authorizing that, but I am a little concerned that we're not being very clear who's on the hook for what. And I know, like Teresa said, it may not be the time to do that right now. And I think we just have to, what risk are we comfortable with? Because if I'm understanding it right, we would authorize the number to go up without being very clear, how are we going to pay for it? And correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm missing something.
Yeah, Tanya.
With the vote that we do today, this is just giving them the authorization to go ahead and get things started, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes. To do the design of the expanded version with the track and the field level.
So we can get it done the way it's supposed to be.
Well, it's to move forward with that design, yes.
Right.
So I would call for the question of the motion, please. Yes. Daniela, could you call for the question,
yes,
please?
sorry. Okay. Trustee Larson.
Can I clarify? This motion is to put the rest of the extra money into fundraising only.
Would you like to?
No? Okay, could we clarify the motion,
This
please?
is the approval to increase the project budget authority to $14,892,896.13 to fully address the track slope issue and retain the complete scope of the stadium reconstruction, including locker rooms, storage rooms, and seating. It's agenda item 4E.
Thank you.
Trustee Larson.
Yes.
Trustee Ludwig.
Yes.
Trustee Nemetz.
Yes.
Trustee Hafer.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Judici.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Ashmore.
Yes.
And Trustee Tarakitis.
No.
8 yeses, 1 no.
Okay, the motion passes. We do not need to go out for a motion. We don't need a motion for the RFP. We've done the budget amendment, so then the last item would be the general contractor. Scott, would you present what the committee is recommending?
We put an RFP, RFQ out for the general contractor, construction manager for the Dallas Stadium renovation project. They were due back and reviewed on July 22nd. We set up interviews with 3 firms, 3 great firms. On the 29th, we had 3 really good interviews, and the selection committee scored, and the selected candidate to recommend to the board is Dick Anderson Construction. We've used them before on some major projects, and they've done a great job, and that was our recommendation.
Thank you. So the action is to approve the recommendation of Dick Anderson Construction for the Dallas Stadium project.
So moved.
Motion by Tanya. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jen. Any comments or questions? Okay. This is a money, so Daniela, we should probably do a roll call.
Sure. Trustee Larson.
Aye.
Trustee Ludwig.
Aye.
Trustee Nemitz.
Yes.
Trustee Hafer.
Aye.
Trustee Hoffman.
Aye.
Trustee Judici.
Aye.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Ashmore.
Yes.
And Trustee Tarakitis.
Yes.
So just one other question. Do we need to increase the fundraising authority? Or are we okay on that with that one item? That one item increased the fundraising authority.
That is correct.
Okay. To increase the project budget authority, yes. Okay, so I think we've got everything that we needed to vote on. The only other thing was the out-of-district students. And who is speaking on that? That got put on the agenda, so.
That is correct. So since Monday night's board meeting, we've had additional out-of-district students apply. So just to get them in the system, we just need you to approve this list.
Can we, I see there's 2 that were denied, one from Roundup and one for Elder Grove. What is the reason that they were denied? Is it the class they were in, too many students?
Gordon, can you come up?
The high school one, the Roundup student, was behavior.
Okay. Perfect, thank you.
If any of them are ever denied, it's because we are unable to provide special education services because there is high needs, or it is over our 85% capacity.
Okay.
So it's either size or we're not able financially to meet the needs.
Okay, thank you. So we need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor to approve the requested out-of-district students identified in the list, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. And we will move on to adjournment unless there is any opposition. All right, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.